Hello, it's Jeta, and today I wanted to share with you my summer reading list. Is it incredibly long? Yes. Am I probably not going to finish all the books? Yes, but I still think that writing sort of TBR for the summer not only gives you a bit of motivation to actually start getting back into reading, but also gives you a sense of direction. Like, there were certain types of books that I wanted to read this summer, and just making a list is always helpful. And it means that when you go into bookshops, you sort of know what books you want to buy and don't end up spending way too much, which is what I always do. So I actually just read Normal People by Sally Rooney. This wasn't on my summer reading list originally, but it just sort of came up and I thought, it's been 2 years since I've read this book. We are never the same person twice, and so you're never going to read a book the same twice. So I think rereads are fun, and I did just finish that. I'm also actually currently reading 2 books right now, which are on my list. On Earth We Are Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, which is this beautiful letter to his mother who cannot read, and it follows many different themes from sort of immigration to identity and childhood and family, and honestly it's so beautiful. The writing, like every word feels so precise and well chosen, which I just love. I've read a few poems online as well that he's written, and I just really love what he writes, and I'm excited to actually finish this. But I'm also reading Finding Me by Viola Davis. It's her memoir. I'm reading on Audible, and it's so gripping and harrowing and inspiring all at once. I would really actually recommend the read if you're sort of into memoirs and autobiographies. So let's actually get into the books that I want to read this summer. I've sort of got 3 lists. I've got the books that I want to read for recreation in the summer up until I go on holiday, and then I've got a mini list for the books I want to read whilst I'm on holiday. My family are going to Croatia at the end of August, which is so exciting, so I do want to sort of have a little list of beach reads for myself for that too. And then my last sort of list is just books that I need to read for my personal statement, for preparing for university, psychology related things, and also school related things. So that list is slightly less exciting, but I will talk about it at the end nonetheless. So the first book I want to read in the summer is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've heard so much about this book. Everyone who's read it has said they loved it. I don't actually know a lot about the plot, and I sort of want to leave it that way. I have no idea what to expect, but I've heard good things from people I trust, so I'm gonna read it, no questions asked. And then I also want to read The Promise by Damon Galgut, which actually won the Booker Prize for 2021. This is set in South Africa, which automatically drew me in because I've just done a topic in history A-level on South Africa. The whole book is set over 4 funerals, which as a premise just sounds so intriguing, and Jack Edwards really highly recommended this, so I'm just really excited to read it, and I bought it recently, which physical copies are just gives me so much excitement to have a book in my hands. Then I also want to read Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. As I said, I just did a Normal People reread, and I love Sally Rooney's writing. It just feels so raw, like she's almost stripped away everything else and just left the bare bones of a book, like just the skeleton of the words almost. There's like no other way to describe it. It feels so stripped back, and I love that. I love that about her writing, and this sounds amazing. Alice, a novelist, meets Felix, who works in a warehouse, and asks him if he'd like to travel to Rome with her. In Dublin, her best friend Eileen is getting over a breakup and slips back into flirting with Simon, a man she's known since childhood. The characters sound so lovable, and I'm guessing this is another sort of character-driven book, which I've really been enjoying recently. Then I've also got Shuggy Bane by Douglas Stewart on my list, which also won the Booker Prize, but in 2020. I found this in my local bookshop and was immediately drawn to it. It was actually only £3, which is like crazy. And seems like it's going to be a very sad book, but I can take that on. I actually do quite like a book to cry over. I don't know, I just really like it when a book makes me feel something, even if it's not a good feeling. If a book can actually give me a physical reaction, I'm like, that's 5 stars, and I'm hoping this will do that. Then I also want to read The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I study her poetry for English A-level, and so I just think it will not only be useful for that to give me a little bit more context of her work and her life, but I also just love Plath's writing, and so I'm hoping that the novel is going to live up to my expectations. Then I also want to read Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. I watched this reel on Instagram where this guy asked random people, what's your favourite book of all time? He asked this question to a really old woman who just looked like she'd lived and experienced so much in life. And without hesitation, she just said, James Baldwin, Giovanni's Room, and said that it was the best book she's ever read in her entire life. And I was like, I have to read this. I don't know why, but her opinion just seemed to hold so much value. Maybe because she's lived so much longer than me, but it immediately went onto my summer reading list. I don't actually have the book physically. I am sort of debating whether to get it on Kindle or get it physically, but I feel like it's going to be a book that I need to have and like underline and pencil, so I might buy it, although I've bought so many books recently. So maybe I won't read it this summer, maybe I will leave it for sort of when school starts again, but we'll see. Then another charity bookshop find, Under Pressure by Farrak Zahik. The second I read the blurb, I was like, oh, this is a book I need to read. It's going to be a really difficult book to read. I'm not looking forward to it, but I just know I need to read it. Under Pressure is a fragmentary book that brings together brutal, heart-wrenching stories from the front line of the Bosnian conflict of the 1990s. My parents were refugees from Kosovo, and so my family has experienced firsthand the aftermath of war. Even though genocide in Bosnia happened before the war in Kosovo, it's still in the Balkan region and in a very similar time period and in a very similar culture. I've also read very little which is set in the Balkans or written by someone who is Kosovan or from that region. I just really wanted to read this. And also a reviewer said that the book literally describes the war through the gun sight of an AK-47, and I've never read anything like that before. Okay, now for the beach reads for Croatia, which I am buzzing about. The first book I'm going to read, which I think I'm going to try and read this on the plane because it's quite short, is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Morata. I really don't know if I'm saying any of these author names right for the entire video, and I'm very sorry if I butchered any of them. I'm trying my best. So the protagonist is 36 years old. She's never had a boyfriend and she's working in the same convenience store for 18 years. Her parents wish she'd get a job. Her friends wonder why she won't get married, but she knows what makes her happy and she's not going to let anyone take away from her convenience store. It just seems like it's going to be really funny and really wholesome and sweet, and I'm just so ready to read this. It's also a translated fiction, which I haven't read very much of, so I'm also interested to sort of see that side of things as well. Then I want to read what almost seems like the perfect beach read by Emily Henry. I don't know too much about it. It's probably a romance, so I'm like, yep, that sounds about right. And then I also want to read Small Pleasures by Claire Chambers. You and Me on Vacation, again by Emily Henry. I think a lot of her books are like romance beach reads, which literally sounds like the perfect combination for me. And then I want to read We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. I've heard a lot of good things about this book. I actually met E. Lockhart, I think in like year 9. She came to my school, and because I was a pupil librarian, I got to meet her and talk to her. And I've actually got a signed copy of Genuine Fraud, which I haven't read yet. But We Were Liars just sounds amazing, and it sounds like a better beach read than Genuine Fraud, so I'm going to read that first. And then I'm going to read Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Again, romance, beach ready, plus books. Like, what more can I ask for? And finally, I want to read The Art of Solitude. This is basically a collection of essays and poetry about being alone. There's a quote at the back: "I love to be alone. I never found the companion that was so companionable as solitude," which I just love, and I really enjoy being alone. I really enjoy my own company. I am very much an introvert, so being alone is my way of recharging, so this just seems like a very perfect book for me. This was actually a birthday present from my good friend Sylvia, who clearly knows me too well, but yeah, I feel like I will dip into this whilst in Croatia, and yeah, I'm very excited. So that's about it for the sort of recreational books. In terms of books for my future, I have been reading The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk for a while now. I just keep leaving it and not reading it. It is very dense, like the writing is very small, and also there are like diagrams of the brain and graphs and things like that, so it is a very dense book. It's taking me a while, but I really need to push myself to finish it in the next few weeks, because I obviously want to talk about it in my personal statement, which I need to write this summer, so I really need to hurry up. And then the sort of I don't know if you've seen this book series before, they're called A Very Short Introduction To. They're very good for like quick introductions to a topic. They're very detailed though. Even though they're very short, they are very high quality. There's so much research and studies that are written into them, but also very accessible to read at the same time. So I think I'm going to try and read A Very Short Introduction to Anxiety, A Very Short Introduction to Consciousness, and then maybe possibly A Very Short Introduction to the Brain. And then I've also got to read a history book. So my summer homework is to read a book from this list that my history teacher gave us. All of them are on Russia, and I think I'm going to read, I think it's called like The Revolutionary Russia or something like that. One of the shorter ones, because some of the ones on this list, I kid you not, I went to the bookshop and found them. They're like this big. We're not doing that. I'm sorry, I love reading, but I literally cannot read that. Yes, that is my summer reading list. I really don't think I'm going to be able to get through everything, but at least it's there. The idea's there. I bought some of the books. So yes, if you have gotten to the end of the video, I'd love to know which book you're most looking forward to reading this summer in the comments. But yes, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day. Mwah. Bye.